Welcome, everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of For What It's Worth. I'm your host, Chris Conforti, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Mike Price. Mikey, what's going on, buddy?
What's going on, dude? How are you?
Nothing. A little bit of a struggle there getting through the intro, as we were joking before we went live. So, thank you for going on mute and not making me laugh any more than I already did.
Well, you obviously failed at that, so.
Yeah, a little bit as usual. So yeah, everybody, and I always make this joke, but it's definitely sadly true. All of our three listeners, thank you for listening thus far to us, and chiming in here and there. We definitely really appreciate it, and it's definitely been a while since we've done one of these. Mike, do you want to let the listeners know what's been going on the last few weeks? Why we haven't done anything, or should we just keep it secret?
Keep it secret. There's no secrets.
So doghouse.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been going through a couple life changes, a big career change, so we're no longer coworkers, but we're still good buds, and we want to keep this podcast going as much as we can, but the past few weeks just didn't have the time, and along with this northeast winter that we've been having over the past few weeks, it's just been really hard, and we're looking forward to getting back on the grind.
Yeah, and I mean now's the perfect time. Like, we were talking the other day and over the weekend, and then you're like, oh yeah, free agencies soon, and I was just like, holy shit, like it is, like, because it was March. I mean, we're only at today's what, March 3rd, so it was only 2 days ago, but like that short February month really like snuck up and it went by super quick. And then now, like I said, it's just a week from now that I think at 12 noon that teams could start officially signing free agents. There's already been some signings this far with like the Josh McCowns going to Cleveland, and then a little bit of breaking news that we'll get into at some point in the show. The Bills dealing Kiko Alonso to the Eagles for LaShawn McCoy. So just those are just a couple other little nuggets that we'll have to fit in. But overall, like, what we wanted to kind of talk about tonight was obviously a preview on the NFL free agency period, and really focus on four main topics of that: the wide receiver position, the running back position, uh, Pro Bowl, probable Hall of Fame cornerback Darrelle Revis, possibly coming back to the Jets. I don't know. We'll see. And Ndamukong Suh, is he worth the headache? And then to wrap it up, we'll just touch a little bit on the QB part of the draft or whatever.
Basically, the Jets dilemma.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, if you guys are sick of hearing about the Jets, you should probably just close out this the window that you're listening to or watching this on right now, because it's just not going to be music to your ears. Um, so I guess we could just kick it off a little bit of try to get a little bit of background on the free agency. We see this from time to time. We saw it with the Colts a few years ago. Just absolutely brutal the year without Peyton, and then they draft Andrew Luck, completely turn it around. Like, it seems to happen a lot more than people think. Obviously, us being optimistic Jets fans, new regime coming in, would like to think this is somewhat possible. They have a lot of money to spend this year. Right now, it's at, I believe, $55 million, and if they cut Percy Harvin, it's going to go up to about $64-65 million, which is a ridiculous amount of money to spend. So, I just want to know where your head's at right now. Like, what are you looking to solve? Give me specific positions, specific players you're looking to get. Like, do you care who they get? What's your poison for this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge talented crop of players out there, and I don't want to spend every last dollar, but just upgrading the personnel. And like, as we saw a lot of the games unfold last year, the Jets were in a lot of games. Like they lost, I think, 7 or 8 games in the fourth quarter by one score or less. So we're not that far off in terms of having that talent to able to secure those wins. But I think where we need to upgrade is to pair someone alongside Eric Decker, and desperately, desperately need to upgrade that secondary because, that position, when the Jets made their run to the back-to-back AFC Championship appearances, they had Antonio Cromartie and Darrelle Revis, who ironically might be able to come back to the New York Jets in a little reunion. So I think those two focal points will really dictate how the Jets succeed or fail in 2015. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that the secondary, I feel like, has got to be the most. I'm going to make up a word here because it's definitely not a word. Most addressable position on the roster. They just have so many. You can't go out there with the likes of Darren Walls, and thank God Kyle Wilson is not going to be on the team. I don't have to see that finger wag anymore. But you can't trek those guys out there on. I'll quote a movie, on any given Sunday, because they just don't have what it takes to be every play, every week starters in the NFL. Like, Walls would be good as a third or fourth, nickel back type corner, but he can't be lining up on the other side. That's not good. It's not a good situation to be in.
No, and especially because that front seven, it's pretty much arguably one of the best front sevens in the league.
Yeah.
Not even having perennial Pro Bowlers at the linebacker position, but with Wilkerson, Richardson, and Snacks, they have the potential to do big things if they only had a secondary that was somewhat serviceable.
Yeah, it's and it sucks because you brought it up before. We had a secondary that was so good at one point. Revis and Cromartie, and it was just, oh man, it feels like ages ago. It really does. But meanwhile, it was 2 to 3 years ago that was our secondary.
And to bring up something else, the other thing too is with Rex gone, I think schematically they have to change and not blitz as often. I know Bowles has a similar type of defense that he likes to run, but a lot of these blown coverages and assignments was definitely influenced by Rex's play calling ability.
Yeah, they were just, at points you could say they were mistimed, whatever. Because essentially any third down situation, he was bringing probably 7-8 guys.
Right, and you could only do that when you have the likes of a Cromartie, a Peterson, or a Revis, McCourty, these household names where you can get away with cornerbacks having to cover for 5 to 6 seconds down the field.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because, like you brought up too, Bowles has a similar. I think he actually even blitzed more than Rex did last year. But again, he had Cromartie, he had Patrick Peterson. He had guys. He had Honey Badger. He had guys that could step in there and make a play. If they were out on the island. Jets don't have that right now. Do I expect them to have that come training camp? Yeah, I do. Do I expect it to be Revis? No, I don't. I really think Cromartie is going to end up coming back. I have a strong feeling that that's going to happen, and either through the draft or maybe a Byron Maxwell from Seattle. The thing is, they're in such a good situation right now. They could afford to overpay like one guy. So you gotta, even multiple guys, but you want to be smart with it. But you got to figure out who you want that to be. Like, where can you afford to make that mistake? Like, do you give the money, a lot of money, to a wide receiver, or do you keep Percy Harvin on the roster? Do you spend $20 million to bring Revis back? Byron Maxwell is looking for, I think, about like $10 million. I feel like that's like almost a no-brainer if he wants to come to the Jets. So you just really have to pick your poison there, and see where it makes the most sense. Because the last thing you want to do is spend a lot of money on a guy that's going to have little to no impact. Jets obviously need impact players, and they need them badly.
Right, and as enticing as a Revis reunion, sounds, I just don't necessarily know if it bodes well, for the long-term interest of the team, just because of that price tag that he's going to command. So if we're able to get two, other blue chips as opposed to just a first ballot Hall of Famer, I might, want Maccagnan to go in that direction as opposed to possibly overpaying for Revis, who is about to turn 30, who's already had a catastrophic knee injury. It's just a gamble that, I think I don't think we should take right now in this offseason.
Yeah, and the funny thing is we go back to watching like Hard Knocks from 4 years ago, which I do from time to time because I'm sick. But you see all the interaction with like Tannenbaum and Rex and Woody with Revis's agents. Like, why would they want to go through that headache all over again? And Woody's the guy that's supposedly pushing for this really bad. Like, I don't know, it's kind of messed up, like to me, because you hire some guy to come in, be the general manager, build a team, and then you're jamming this down his throat already. He's been on the job for like a month or two.
Right. And I mean, do you think this might just be a ploy to make his price tag go up on the market so they draw him away from the Patriots?
That could be. I mean, that's definitely a good tactic to use. And to be honest with you, I really didn't think about it that much like that, but that does definitely make sense.
Because realistically, I mean, that relationship, I think it's beyond, repairing.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're talking about football. Like, these guys, get all this money and everything like that. So it should never be this much of an obstacle. But with this guy, it always is, man. Like, he held out after he got drafted, he held out at Hard Knocks. It just almost like seems inevitable. Like, he's always going to hold out no matter what. He's always about the dollar. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if they got him, but I obviously wouldn't want them to sign him to like a 3-year, $60 million contract or something like that, where it's just like it's like a Yankees A-Rod situation waiting to happen.
Right, but yeah, I mean, him and Peterson though, like the way they responded after tearing their ACL. I mean, a torn ACL these days, it's not as big of a deal as it used to be, just because of the advances in medicine. Like, if there's one guy that definitely has 3 to 5 years of like all pro ability, it's probably him. So
yeah,
it's I'm 50-50 on it.
Yeah, I would rather to end this Revis talk. I'd rather them get Cromartie, who again, like, he's also in his 30s. He doesn't really have much football ahead of him, but he's familiar with Bowles' system. He loves New York. Supposedly that's all he talks about. So at least you'd get a guy that wanted to be there.
Right.
And you could plug him in and he'll do pretty well as long as he stays healthy. And then get a Maxwell or get somebody in the draft, whatever.
And we still have D. Milner on his rookie contract. So to show him how to be a pro, because he really hasn't had anybody,
Yep.
to really show him how to be an NFL cornerback. Cromartie is definitely one of those leaders that could definitely coach him up and help him progress in his NFL career.
As well as start a family and have like 14 kids.
Prenuptial agreement.
Had to get one in. So we'll segue that in. Kind of wanted to talk about Revis a little bit later on, but that's totally fine. Now we'll get to another, sought after position. There's a lot of these out there, the wide receivers. So unfortunately, unless Denver decides to randomly just like cut Demaryius Thomas after they, franchised him, which obviously is not going to happen at all. It doesn't look like him and Decker are going to, reunite this year, and that's kind of upsetting to me because I was really looking forward to that. Having DT on the Jets, I feel like would be a phenomenal acquisition, but like I said, there's still a lot of other guys out there. I mean, with the exception to Dez, who was also franchised. I guess before we get into the Jets' needs and what other free agents at the wide receiver position there are available, how do you feel about the franchise tagging in general? I have a feeling it's not too positive.
Yeah, I mean, not only just because we missed out on these two guys, but it's just it really puts the players in an awkward position because they're gonna have to, face the media. And apparently, like I was reading today, that Dez Bryant doesn't even have to show up to any of the mandatory mini camps. He doesn't have to be at the Dallas facility until like mid-July. So like I think it creates a bad PR, and it really puts the players in an unfair position because they could jeopardize securing a long-term financial future with, just a injury working out in the offseason. It's just like they've earned that money. He played his rookie deal out. I think you just have to pay the man. Give him the premium that he deserves, and the rule just needs to be reevaluated. I mean, clearly you're still getting top-notch money, but not the money that you would command on the open market.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that happen before, just to ourselves too. The Leon Washingtons of the world too. Like
right.
These guys just, it's a physical sport. The injuries are going to happen, and they're not. And I mean, trust me, like I'm usually the one like having the conversation, saying like these guys get way too much money or whatever. But there are specific situations like this where they're not able to really, I guess, secure their future based on whatever the franchise tag is. If you're only talking about like a couple $1,000,000 or whatever, then like that's where I'm saying this may be somewhat as a problem. But like the wide receiver position, if say for example Dez was to break his leg, right, and it was like career ending, he's still going to be making $12 to $13 million this year off the tag. So if he was an intelligent person, which I'm pretty much guessing or assuming that he is not, he would be able to set himself financially up the rest of his life. I mean, I would take $2,000 right now to apply to my future, and I feel like I would do a better job than some of these athletes do. But I mean, I'm definitely with you on terms of the large scale and the bigger picture, whereas you have guys that are just cashing in on some of these contracts, like Percy Harvin, for example. He had like one like above average year, got this sick deal in Seattle, and then he's always hurt with the migraines, this and that. Then he has the good Super Bowl game, returns the kick, whatever. Like there's no doubting he's a good talent, but like some of these guys are getting like the money, and it's not going to the guys, I guess, that kind of deserve it, even though, like I said, it is subject to how much money we're talking about. Because I mean, we could have a completely different discussion on like how athletes are paid in comparison to like the average human being, and it's just such an astronomical difference. It's disgusting, but I don't even want to touch that. But yeah, I mean, it is like a weird rule. I get it's just like an easy cop out essentially. Like,
right.
Oh, we don't want to give you the max deal even though you're worth it, so we'll just give you I forget what the actual math is. It's like
I think it's the top five salaries at that position averaged out.
Yeah, and so, but this is what I don't understand too. I don't even want to touch that actually, because we'll talk about him later. Ndamukong Suh, because wasn't his like tag going to be something like $20-something million or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was like close to $25 million.
Yeah, I don't get how that's possible. But like I said, we'll just wait till.
Well, I think it's Justin Houston, it's J.J. Watt, like.
It's ridiculous, is what it is.
Right.
He's probably like wishing he got tagged just for a quick. I'll sign him for 25.
Right, but I mean, he's still going to get paid and have multiple years.
Oh yeah. So sticking with, not trying to get too sidetracked, sticking with the wide receiver position. So as far as what the Jets have, we have Decker, we have Curley, we technically still have Percy Harvin. We have Salim Hakeem. We have, the hell's the other guy's name? Walt Powell. Just all these guys that have no real reason to be on an NFL roster.
The bad news bears of wide receiver corps.
Pretty much. Just Deckman just holding it down. My boy.
Your man crush.
Yeah, pretty much. So you posed a question, who the Jets who would you rather have the Jets sign? Percy Harvin or Randall Cobb? And obviously we've seen a little bit of what Percy can do. Oh, dude, this cat is just bothering me so bad. We've seen what Harvin can do, on a limited scale. How many games did he play with the Jets? Like 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, something like that. Yeah, he had a decent effect. The cat just bit my wire. So, all right, you're going bye-bye. Um, he had decent production, in the amount of time, but again, like he ended up getting hurt. He hurt his ankle or something like that, so he is definitely very injury prone. Um, so Randall Cobb, though, on the other hand, is playing with possibly the best quarterback in the NFL too. So, you see some of these guys. I mean, that's what Decker was criticized for, even coming here to New York. Oh, he's not gonna do well because he was playing with Peyton Manning. He's a product of Peyton Manning. Well, if the Jets signed Cobb, I could see that same conversation being had. Can you?
Absolutely. I mean, the only thing is that the production level of Decker would definitely go up, and I think that's something that we need to compliment him with. He didn't have, that other wide receiver to draw attention away from him. So I think Percy probably is the better athlete, but in terms of consistency and his availability on a week-to-week basis, I might want to go with Randall Cobb just because of how sustainable he's been and the consistency really.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm looking it up now. Cobb, dude, is only 24 years old.
That's the other thing too, is that yeah, he's very, very young.
Percy Harvin I mean, he's only 26. He'll be 27 this year. So it's not like he's that much older, but as far as I know, and it's not that much about him, Cobb isn't really injury prone. Percy is. Cobb is younger. I mean, you're going to be giving them both essentially the same amount of money, but you're hoping that maybe he can bring some of that winning mentality over to the Jets. But yeah, I mean, if I'm having to make a decision right now, somebody has a gun to my head, and they say, "Who do you want?" Percy Harvin or Randall Cobb. I'm probably going to go with Randall Cobb. I don't know about you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only caveat that I'd say is that if Percy Harvin somehow becomes Tom Brady's number one weapon,
Well, you got to know that something is going to go miserably for us, right? Like it's inevitable. Like look at Revis goes to New England in his first year, wins a Super Bowl ring. I could
yeah,
see like if we don't sign Bilal Powell back, like he'll go there and he'll run for like 1,200 yards and like 6 TDs because they won't sign Vereen. Something like stupid like that'll definitely happen for
right.
sure.
I mean, they have to secure one of these guys, and I know Macklin's out there too. So if both these guys aren't, if one of them isn't with the Jets, I think we're going to be in trouble. But it's definitely a position that the Jets have to look at upgrading, just because you paid Decker the money. He had a pretty productive year with Geno Smith at the helm. So I think if you just add another dynamic on the other side of the field, his production is only going to go up. And both these guys definitely have the talent. I just think with Percy's injury history as well as his off the field concerns and his durability, like I mentioned before, I think you might have to just look at Cobb and what he's been able to do with the Packers and what he could potentially do with, Decker and, whoever else we upgrade on the offensive side of the ball.
Very true. And just to say this too, we're not, as you can tell, like, and I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the 4 people listening, but as you can tell, we haven't really touched anything on the draft. We kind of want to save that for the next episode or the episode after that. So we're clearly just trying to focus on free agency. Obviously, if the Jets don't sign any wide receiver throughout the offseason, I'm fully expecting them with that 6th pick to do something, or maybe trade down and then take somebody in the later round. But I totally don't see them sleeping on this. The NFL is a passing league right now. You got to put people out there to catch the ball, to be different on the field. Decker is I feel like a great possession receiver. He's not fast, but he's quick. He's pretty good at catching the ball, I think. And he's just a good target to have, like a good security blanket. And I completely agree. You put a burner like Cobb out there, it's going to make his life a lot easier. It's going to make the defenses guess a little bit more, and it's going to make whoever's throwing the ball back there's life a lot easier too, whether that be Geno, Mariota, Matt Moore, Mike Price, Chris Conforti, whoever's throwing the ball, you know, to the receivers. It's going to make their lives a lot easier.
Yeah,
Um,
I
no,
should
go
have mentioned, that's my career change.
ahead. The next Vince Papale.
Mike McCagnon signed me to a one year deal.
That'd be amazing. That'd be absolutely amazing. Um, so the next thing I got on the list right here is the running back position. So first off, before we get into some of the topics that we have there, where do you see the Jets right now as far as the running back position? Obviously, we have Ivory. I think he's the only running back signed through this year. CJ 0K, point 600 yards, has left the building, and Powell is, I don't know if he has a foot out the door. I think he is a priority of theirs because he is a very versatile guy. But what would you like to see the Jets do in free agency, or whether it be in the draft, or are you happy with Ivory and Powell as the 1-2 punch? Like, what are you thinking there?
I think we could get through the season with both of those guys, and as you pointed out, Powell's definitely commanding like a lot of suitors on the open market right now. With that said, I think Ivory definitely did a great job for us last year. It was that ground and pound type back that Rex had always wanted. But CJ2K just was a failed experiment. He had a couple flashes, but he just wasn't the guy that we thought we were getting. There's definitely some big names out there. With the breaking news that happened today, LaShawn McCoy heading to Buffalo, that means CJ Spiller is going to be probably disposed of. So his familiarity with Chan Gailey's system definitely puts the Jets as the front runner to land him. So if we could pair him with Ivory, I'd be okay with Powell leaving. But if we can't get someone like that to be that dynamic back that Ivory isn't, then yeah, I think we'd have to sign both of them.
See, I agree with you. I'd be cool with getting CJ, but I would still probably even sign Powell and keep him on the roster too.
Sure.
You don't know what's going to go on with Spiller. Like, I like that three-headed monster idea, just almost as a safety blanket. Like, Powell didn't really get that many carries, but even when he did, I think he ended up averaging over 4 yards a carry. And he's great out of the the backfield, running those wheel routes or whatever, all those little kind of running back routes. So he's definitely very sure-handed with that. I mean, I like to see him back. He seems like a good guy in the locker room. Like, you never really hear anything bad about him. So I even despite whoever they bring in, unless they bring in like a DeMarco Murray or Adrian Peterson, I'd like to see him back on the Jets. I think he's done some really nice things, and he can play special teams as well. You sign a more big named guy that's taken away a spot from special teams, and Mike Westhoff likes his special teams guys. So, but I guess we could use that as a little bit of a segue to get into some of the more higher profile running backs, and I guess just get a little bit more general on the topic of running backs in the NFL. Like, you think about like the classic running backs. Like, I think of like Ricky Waters and Emmitt Smith and guys like that. Whereas like now, guys are turning perfect example, like LaShawn McCoy. I don't even know how old he is. I have to look it up. But he can't be more than 26, 27 years old, and he just got dealt to the Bills today for Kiko Alonso. Like, I don't know how that makes any sense. Yet he's 26. He's going to be turning 27 in July. I mean, just because he had somewhat of a not explosive season as the year before, he still rushed for over 1,300 yards, only 5 touchdowns. But I just don't understand how a trade like that actually happens. But not to get completely on the side of the road. Can't speak.
Kid can't even read.
I know. But where do you see this running back position nowadays? Like I said, I feel like guys get in the latter part of the mid-20s and teams are ready to just throw them to the side of the road.
Right. I mean, because you can plug in anybody right now. I mean, that's what fantasy football is all about. It's just squatting on those depth charts and finding these no-name running backs that are drafted in the later rounds of the draft. And they have similar productivity. So, aside from the Adrian Petersons of the world, and obviously DeMarco Murray is going to get paid money, but I think the position overall has just become diminished. And, the NFL has moved to a more pass-heavy league. So it's understandable, but to rush for 1,800 yards and not even have that team want to sign you or potentially let you walk, it just really, like you said, it doesn't, speak to like the legendary historic running backs like Emmitt Smith who were able to cash in. So
Right.
it's definitely a changing of the guard and the line of thinking on the value of that position and how it can, contribute to the success of your franchise. With like you said before, McCoy getting dealt in the prime of his career, like
Right.
it does not make sense. Like if I was an Eagles fan today, I'd be pretty fucking pissed.
Yeah. No, I would be furious. I mean, that'd be like right now if like the Jets didn't sign Mo Wilkerson. If they didn't re-sign him, I mean, we can live without a defensive lineman, but I feel like that guy is like right now, who's the face of the Jets? It has to be him because there's nobody else on the team like where you could like put a face on, like
You just asked me that question, and I drew like a blank in my head.
yeah, dude, the roster is like completely just totally
Faceless.
different. Yeah, like over the last few years, like I feel like all my teams this is currently happening. Like the Yankees lost Jeter this last year was his last year. Who's the face of the Yankees right now? Like Brett Gardner?
Chuck Knobloch.
Oh, Jesus, that guy couldn't even throw. Guy couldn't even read. He couldn't even throw the ball to first base from like 10 feet away.
You know I
Easiest
don't.
throw.
I don't know baseball. I don't know anything. Alex Rodriguez, baby.
Oh God, A-Rod.
Welcome,
Bomb from A-Rod.
welcome back.
No, but like, I mean, nothing has obviously happened yet. The Cowboys franchising Dez, the opportunity is still there for them to still re-sign DeMarco. I'm not putting anything else out there as far as that's concerned. I guess we'll just have to let it play out. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it definitely has to do with. I feel like this is the number one thing is that it is a passing league. You see it in so many different aspects of the game, like the flags that are being thrown for illegal contact, and all that kind of stuff plays into it. And there's a few good quarterbacks out there and some really good receivers, and that's all you need nowadays. So the Eagles can eliminate having to pay money down the line for Shady and get rid of him and get a solid linebacker who, although is injury prone, make that deal. You got guys on that team that you could plug in. Sproles is there, a little nugget that just keeps going and going and going.
Right. And I mean, that situation might be different too, just because, Chip Kelly has managed to deal not deal Deshaun Jackson, but let him go, and now he's dealt his, pretty much his best offensive weapon. So
Yeah,
it could be unique to that situation, but it still like makes you scratch your head and wonder, like, you have pretty much the best running back in the league in terms of versatility, and you trade him in the prime of his career. Like I said, if I'm an Eagles fan today, I'm really like wondering like why you do that.
Yeah, my buddy's a big Bills fan, so I can only imagine him being extremely ecstatic over this. And here I am when I saw that first thing I thought was like, oh, cool, we have to play them like 2 times a year, and like the Bills are actually not a bad team anymore, and our coach went there in the offseason. So
Right.
it really like just livens up that Bills Jets rivalry. I mean, it besides the last year where we got swept by them, like it was always like a very lackluster, not like a big game. Games against Patriots and the Dolphins are always very good, and the Bills are always kind of like the odd team out. But now we're the fucking odd team out, which sucks. Like we're the bottom of the barrel.
Yep.
So it's
Facing Sammy Watkins and LaShawn McCoy for the next 5 to 10 years.
yeah. I mean,
That should be nice.
problem is they still also don't have a quarterback too, which kind of makes the engine run. So we'll see what they do, but I don't really care what they do as long as we beat them. So there's no real segue, I guess, into this. I mean, we were talking a little bit about Mo Wilkerson, so I guess you could kind of pull one out of that. But the Ndamukong Suh we talked about earlier doesn't look like the Lions are going to be retaining their man unless they sign him to a very, very hefty contract. As far as the Jets are concerned, do you think they're players in the Suh sweepstakes? And I'm going to give you a second part to answer. And I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say because, and I mentioned this before we went on. I want to disagree with you so bad, so I'm going to see where you go with this one.
We have the money. That's number one. But in terms of who we already have on the roster, I think we're set up for success down the road. So the Jets are going to have to make a decision. I think, once Richardson is up for his renewal and, Snacks, obviously, we're going to be paying big money to all those guys if we choose to sign all three of them. But having the luxury right now to get that player who fits that Bulls mentality of having like a tough nose, hard defense, you have to say the Jets should definitely at least, test the waters.
I agree in that I believe we should entertain the idea of signing him, but I think when like the conversations get very intense, like they should be very careful. And you alluded to it. So like I guess I kind of half agree with you, and I guess it's just dependent on how much money we're talking about is where I could potentially maybe disagree. But I really don't think we need him at all. Like you said, we have Wilkerson, we have Snacks, we have Richardson. I mean, Kopel sometimes puts his hand in the dirt too. I really want that guy to succeed because he's an absolute monster, but he just plays like such a bitch sometimes. So it's very annoying to see. But
and my opinion is slightly slanted right now because before we recorded, or before we went on air rather, it looks like the Giants are really interested in pursuing him.
I saw that too.
So if they're able to get like the number one prize from free agency, while the Jets have the most cap room in the league, it's gonna be a PR nightmare for them.
Dude, I was talking to Kessler this morning. Shout out to Stan. Like we have all this money, but I feel like we're going until we're like a winning club, we're gonna have that problem of drawing people in because nobody, as cool as it probably is to come to New York because there's so many other opportunities, nobody wants that. But everybody knows the circus. Like Decker got scrutinized last year for like going to his wife was presenting an award somewhere and he missed like an OTA for like a day and everybody was like up in arms. Like even like a guy in the Mets last year, I can't remember who it was, his wife had a baby, people were like hating on him for like going to see his kid be born. So like New York media is bizarre, and then everything's always overanalyzed, and then the Jets suck. So like you add in all those elements and you're looking at yourself like, all right, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, is this guaranteed money that I'm getting going to be worth the headaches that I have every day? And, to be completely honest with you, like, I'm not going to be biased about it because they're my team, but I feel like a lot of guys would want to walk the other direction, instead of coming to New York, especially the Jets, too, because the last couple of years they've been kind of like a laughing stock a little bit. Like, I mean, we had the 8-8 season, which wasn't terrible because nothing really was expected out of us. But then last year was just absolutely brutal. So
you think of guys like Albert Hainsworth, for instance.
Dude, I think that's like Sue's father. Like that's how I view Sue. Like just stepping on guys, like.
Right, but if there is one coach that can get that guy's head right, it might be Todd Bowles. So
cook him some shrimp stew, coconut shrimp.
All right, we're gonna have to edit that out, but get our intern to do it.
Dude, he looks so much like Bubba. Like you can't say that he doesn't look like Bubba.
Well, you're the one that works in Times Square, so why don't you walk across the street tomorrow and go to Bubba Gump Strip and see what he has to say.
Bubba Gumps. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I don't think it's worth it. I feel like they have way too many other needs. Like in fact, like the D line is the strongest part of the entire team.
Right.
I'd rather that money go elsewhere. Bring in some guys for the O line. Bring in some guys for the secondary. Bring in another linebacker if the hitman David Harris doesn't come back.
I'm saying as a contingency though, like as a contingency plan, if they're not able to sign those top-notch defenders, and he's still out there, I mean,
Oh yeah, if he's just like hanging out there, obviously then his stock is going to go down if he's just hanging out. Like
right, but I don't think his stock is going down. It's just if the Jets aren't able to land, the primary needs, which is the secondary, then you might have an alternative and upgrade something that's already a strength and make it, dominant.
So, what would you be comfortable with like giving him? Like, if you were Mike McCagnon and they were like, "All right, draw up a contract right now," like, would it be comparable to Watt and Houston and those guys, or what? Like, I don't even know how much. Let me mull that over for a second while I look over J.J. Watt's contract, unless you know it off the top of your head.
No, I know it's triple digits, so.
Through the 2021 season, the Texans will pay Watt guaranteed $51 million. So that's $16.5 million a year. So they gave him $100 million deal, but you know how NFL contracts are. So it's really all about the guaranteed dollar. So $100 million deal for, I guess, so through 2020. That's like 6 years, $100 million, right? Something like that. Yeah. So would you give him something like that? Where they're paying, like it'd be like almost like an average of $16 million a year or whatever, probably 50, 60 guaranteed. Because here's the thing, these guys like the Watt will set the benchmark, for 51 million guaranteed, and then the next guy, no matter who it is, like remember Joe Flacco a couple years ago was the highest paid NFL quarterback, and now it's gonna probably be Russell Wilson. Like, and Russell Wilson's whole contract might be completely guaranteed. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, I mean, and we didn't even touch on Andrew Luck, who's probably going to make like
$1 billion.
Literally $1 billion. Like, yeah, it definitely does. It's a bad precedent, who makes the most lucrative deal in NFL history, and then the next guy up already has that, ability to negotiate from that price point.
That's why I laugh too, because like with Revis, like I want to be the highest paid corner, and then he gets a deal. And then Asamoah gets like 0.5 million more. He's like, I want a new deal. Like, it's just a matter of like pride and like greediness. Like after a while. So
yeah.
But
anyway, I mean, I'm definitely biased. Just I mean, if the Giants get him, it's because that's how the Giants won Super Bowls. Is with
phenomenal D-line,
phenomenal defensive ends, and the history of the Jets' dilemma for solving that position in particular, like. Vernon Gholston, Dwayne Robertson, John Abraham. Like John Abraham was good, but like we weren't able to keep him. So like
we had the shitty John Abraham years. Like he was playing like just 2 years ago, and he was like still like having like 10 plus sacks, And then I think he like was essentially told to never play football ever again this year because he was going to play for the Cardinals. I think actually, right. But yeah, I mean the blunders of Gholston and Dwayne Robertson and all these horrific guys, like, I don't know. I mean, that's why, like, getting a guy like Sue would potentially be good, because then you could put guys on the outside, like, you could switch it up a little bit. You don't have to have all these, because I feel like all these guys, the Sheldon, Mo, and Snacks, they're all kind of, like, in between the tackles, rushers, whereas, you could, like, even maybe get creative and put Richardson, because Richardson's so fast for as big as he is. You can put him on the outside and rush him around the end on a, like there's things you can do there. So, again, another guy where like I wouldn't be upset if we get him, but like I don't really want, like I'm done having like the scum of the earth on my teams. Like we've had that for so long, and like I feel like we're like starting to gut the team from that. Like we got rid of Revis. I mean, he's not like a bad guy. He's just greedy. But like we had the Tone Times, the Braylons, all these guys that just would always wind up on the back page of the Daily News, Manish Mehta article for all the wrong reasons. So I don't know. I'm just like a little iffy on Sue. But as far as the dollars, you would give him something like 50 to 60 million guaranteed.
Yeah, I think so. Just based on the situation that we have this year, like. Yeah. If we're able to afford it and we're going to get someone in the prime of his career, even though he's, had many off the field issues or on the field issues, I think just having that option on our D line with what we already have in place would be something really, really like to look forward to come September.
Yeah, and another thing too that we haven't touched on is this new, or I don't even know if it's new, but I'll just give the facts of what I know. Over the next 2 years, if the Jets don't spend, their cap, like for both seasons, so it's like this year it could potentially be up to 65, and then next year is like the same thing. So it's like 130, 140 million dollars. If they don't spend all of that money, then those dollars, from what I understood, go to guys already existing on the roster and like are treated almost as like a bonus or like a salary raise for those players. So the money automatically gets pooled. So they almost lose out on that money to bring in new talent to the team. So as much as Maccagనం's like almost downplayed it, being like, oh well, we definitely be very active in free agency, whether it be the top tier, the middle tier, and the lower tier. That's how he broke it down.
Right.
Being like the first 2 days, where everything's crazy and all you see is Schefter's face on this TV screen and tweets going out left and right, and then as things start to die down, like the Dominic Cromartie, Rogers Cromartie's, like last year, where it was like a week after all the madness ensued and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, like
And
I said,
the recipe to win Super Bowls though today is you have to get these rookie quarterbacks who are in the first 3 to 4 years before they
yep,
command that big money. Once
yep,
they command that big money, pretty much a 25% of your salary is just commanded by your quarterback, and then you can't surround them with talent.
yep,
So like, take Seattle for instance. Once they give Russell Wilson big money, like the rest of that roster is going to be, not as good as they are today.
yeah. I mean, you'll start seeing it. I mean, they had to get rid of Percy. It looks like Byron Maxwell's going to walk away. You don't know what's going to happen with Marshawn Lynch. So this is a team that was phenomenal for 2 3 years, and let's face it. I mean, the way the NFL works, like if Lynch isn't on that roster next year, like Seattle might not make the playoffs. Depending on like what other teams in the division do. Obviously, Arizona had a fairly good season last year. San Francisco was up and down. The Rams aren't terrible. So like everybody's going to be a player in the NFC West. I mean, I don't know. I know I don't know a whole lot about that division,
I'm
but
just saying, like that huge contract that these quarterbacks get, it's just like a catalyst for the rest of the team to just like not be good. It's just,
yep,
I don't know, like I mean Peyton Manning and like Tom Brady, they're like exceptions, but they're always like taking like different like workarounds in terms of like how they're structuring their contracts. But like Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, which you pointed out before, like the rest of the team suffers once you put that much stock into a franchise quarterback. So I think it's a good segue into what we'll talk about next, which is just a little teaser of the NFL draft, and we're gonna focus on two guys, Jameis and Marcus Mariota. What's your initial thoughts after seeing the combine results? There's been talk of Jameis already potentially meeting with Tampa Bay. Would you like to see one of those two guys fall to the 6th spot to see if the Jets might be willing to take a gamble on one of them?
yes, that's all I want actually. Before I get started though, I've read this earlier. So Jameis Winston is he's filing for the trademark of famous Jameis.
I did not read that.
Yeah. Famous Jameis will no, like, why is that such a hot thing to do now? Like Marshawn Lynch wants to trademark I'm here so I won't get fined. Like who's gonna try to do something with that? Like I don't know. Anyway,
Pat Riley, dude. Three-peat.
God, is that what you're gonna do or no?
Absolutely not.
Come back to the big red machine. Oh my God. No, but in all seriousness, yes, that's exactly what I want to happen. I think either one of these guys, I really think it's going to be Jameis, is going to go number one to the Bucks. He did definitely meet with guys in the front office and coaches and stuff like that, because there were pictures of him on the on Tampa Bay's campus. So he was definitely there. I think
Campus
yeah, that's what they call it. Like,
training facility.
yeah, but they call it like a campus. It doesn't have to be like a school.
Just fucking with you.
Like, so he was there yesterday on the campus of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he woke up this morning on the campus of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and toured the campus and met with all the coaches and stuff like that. So, I mean,
I wonder what he did at the campus. How
Oh,
many
yeah.
chicks do you think he slept with?
Oh God, that guy's just an accident waiting to happen. And that's why, like, I'm cool with him just going number one. But another Stan shout out right now. I talked to him a couple days ago about this, or last week. I just want to see Mariota still be on the board and Roger Goodell say, who picks the Washington Redskins select blah 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 blah. The New York Jets are now on the clock, and Mariota still on the board. I want to see, like, there's so many adjectives that I can describe that situation. Like well, I don't even know. No, not adjectives. I don't know. I'm like half sleeping right now. But anyway,
I think you were looking for nerve wracking.
yeah. Well, but like more so just defining what the actual word itself is. So like just nerves, just being nervous, anxious, like, oh my God, like, because this decision is going to be very vital for our near and future success. Like if we go and draft like a Shane Ray or something, like, I won't be that upset. But if Mariota is there, you either take him or you find a trading partner that really wants him. And it seems like the Eagles really want him. Because if you could somehow get like a package deal, right, and you get obviously Philly's first round this year, and probably I would ask for a first for next year as well, and get something in return, like a Nick Foles also, because I'm totally cool with doing that. I'm all for future stability and maintained success. Like, I don't want it to just be like a quick, all right, we're going to win the Super Bowl one year, and then we're just going to like just get everybody like off the roster, and we're just going to reboot, like, which a lot of teams kind of do this year, other than the few that are successful for
Right.
years and years on end.
And just like from like a personality perspective though, like I think Mariota just brings that like student of the game with him. Like Jameis might have like the measurables, but like I think for the long-term success of the Jets, it would be stupid to pass on him. Like I think he might lack like the arm strength that Jameis has, but like he runs a 4.5. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's probably lost like 3 collegiate games in his career. I don't know his exact record, but like the upside and his ability to be that student just like would really upgrade the position that's been plaguing us for so long. So if the Jets are there, or if Marcus Mariota is there and the Jets are on the clock and we pass on him for, like you said, someone who's not going to energize the fan base and not bring like something to look forward to, I think it's just going to be a big mistake for us.
Oh, it'll be a disaster. It'll be an absolute disaster. And so I can only imagine the pressure. Like, McCagnon's probably super excited, like goes to sleep every night with a smile on his face. But Friday, April 30th, or Thursday, April 30th, whatever day it is, he's going to be shitting a brick the night before. Like, unless he's 100% certain of what he's going to do and that scenario is actually going to play out. Because I really think, like, there's a very good chance of it happening. You have Tampa Bay going one. Like I said, I'm almost certain they're going to take Winston.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the other personnel throughout the draft, I'm not too knowledgeable about. Hopefully I'll gain some knowledge over the next 6 to 7 days before we actually talk about the draft in much more detail. But, like, I just don't see any need for a quarterback for any of those teams. I mean, yeah, Tennessee has a second pick. They have Zach Mettenberger. Do they, like, drafting Mariota might produce the same thing that they already have in Mettenberger. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not like it would necessarily be an upgrade, because I think Mettenberger is actually not that bad of a quarterback. He had some injury issues last year, but I feel like he's not that bad. Then you have I can't remember who's number 3. Is it Jacksonville? They obviously don't need a quarterback. Number 4 is Oakland. They obviously don't need a quarterback. 5, I don't know. Like, I feel like the Redskins already failed that experiment with RG3, the running quarterback who actually has a rocket of an arm, but he can't stay healthy. But again, do they want another franchise quarterback within 3 years? I don't think so. That's why I
Yes.
feel like
I mean that would be the draft position though. Even
yeah,
if Dan Snyder doesn't want to make that splash, I would be about someone leapfrogging the Jets at that 5 hole.
right. That's the only. I mean, unless a team like maybe Philly trades up to the second spot or the third spot or like that's why like we can't even like really get into hypotheticals right now because so many different things can happen. Dude, like for all we know, the Jets could trade with Tampa up to number one. You really don't even know. Like all this stuff is so bizarre.
Right.
So I'm just super excited. I mean, obviously we got a long time till then, but I'm just pumped for free agency to start, and then all the speculation on that, and then moving forward to the draft. It's just going to be very exciting. We had a horrible year last year, so at least I have like almost a smile on my face right now just thinking about
Yep.
how can this team get better, even though I know the possibility is there where I'm going to be extremely let down. But I don't know, like just
Possibility. Sonny, it's a certainty.
I no, but like it's a new regime. I just feel different with these guys right now, so I'm gonna be optimistic until they prove me wrong.
Right.
And
And come Tuesday though, I think it was like 2 years ago where Miami had a ton of money and they just kept signing guys. If the Jets like don't do anything on Tuesday, if we hear just like crickets, I'm gonna be upset.
I am, and that was similar to how I felt last year. Like a lot of guys came off the board right away, and then late at night, I saw something on Twitter. It was like Decker boards flight to New York, but it didn't say obviously what team he was meeting with. So that
Hmm.
whole next day, dude, I was just on my phone all day, and then finally it was just like, all right, Decker's meeting with the Jets first. Then I think he was either flying to Jacksonville or Indianapolis after that. I mean, lo and behold, he obviously never left the Jets facility without signing the contract. But I was following that story for so long, just waiting, for it to happen. I was so pumped about it, like they were getting a receiver. So, I'm gonna definitely be like that. Work production next Tuesday probably not gonna be that good. Just Twitter on both screens of my computer. Um, but yeah, I'm super pumped for it. I mean, I wish it was today. But like you, I'm gonna be hoping for just names just off the list. I mean, dude, they have so much money they have to spend. They have to spend it. They have to spend it intelligently, but they have to spend it. Otherwise, it
Right.
goes literally to out the window to all the other guys that are already on the roster that aren't good enough right now. So they have to do it.
Yeah. And it's just gonna be a nice facelift for this team, hopefully. But like you said before, it's like do some of these players value winning? Do they, not want to be part of like a rebuilding project? So it's like I'm not like too optimistic, that money's going to talk come Tuesday, but I think they're definitely going to land some good prospects.
Yeah, they have to because there's a lot of them out there. So, it depends what their strategy is. Like, do they want to get guys that have already established themselves in the league, or do they want to take a risk on guys that are coming out of the draft? Like, maybe they look at Randall Cobb and they're like, you know what, we really like this guy, but we really like the upside of Kevin White from West Virginia, or we really like Amari Cooper. You don't know what they're thinking, obviously, and we won't know until they start making moves. Obviously, if they don't sign a wide receiver in this, within the first couple of weeks of free agency, then they're going to be drafting one. So, I mean, I feel like that's pretty safe assumption.
Yep.
So, obviously, the moves that they make in free agency will dictate where they go in the draft. Because
Yeah.
if they get all these positions like wide receiver, yada yada yada, then you look at them probably taking a quarterback with that sixth pick, or maybe trading down, getting a later round guy. Who I really like is Bryce Petty.
Yeah.
He's my sleeper that I wouldn't be upset if we ended up getting.
Right. Just someone else because the free agent market for QBs is just not good. We
Oh,
could
it's
just tell
trash.
we could just tell Michael Vick to just don't pack his bag, just stay.
Yeah,
Like that
whatever.
would pretty much be the best alternative right
It
now.
would. It would. It'd be him or just keep Geno. Like there's no rush in my mind. Like yeah, obviously I'd want the Jets to win the Super Bowl this year, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. So, I'm okay with that. I just want to take this time now to do it right, get the scum off the team, and get good guys in there that actually like want to win. I mean, there's going to be obviously like we said, the few guys that that are only playing for the check and everything like that. That's fine, but just like you alluded to the facelift of the franchise overall. Like it needs to be done. We got the cancers out of there. So let's start off nice and healthy and on a clean slate. So they're in such a great position for this too. With all the money, nice draft picks or whatever. So it's looking up. Let's just hope there's not like let's hope that little seagulls don't fly into our propellers while we're taking off or whatever and have to emergency land in the Hudson.
Well, yeah, I mean, ironically, we could thank Idzik for having this potential because, I mean, Maccagnan's walking into like pretty much like the easiest GM position ever right now. Like,
Yeah.
he can't do anything wrong. All he has to do is open up the checkbook. Like, I mean, clearly, yeah, you have to sell him on the long-term vision of the franchise, but like, this team just has the ability to turn it around really fast, and like that's just what we touched on in the opening was like teams can go from having 4 wins to being a playoff team the next year. So with the money that we have, with the 6 overall draft pick, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that the Jets could possibly make a wild card push.
Yep, and that's what I'll be obviously rooting for and hoping for throughout the season. But if it doesn't happen, hey, there's always a job for you at O'Shea Chevrolet. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited. I know you're excited. And we'll have obviously a lot more to talk about next week. We'll
recap of Tuesday and
yeah. So we'll definitely try to put something out either on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Maybe give us a day to just soak in everything that happened on Tuesday, and just leave room for any of the late night signings that go down. But free agency is just 1 week away, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm very excited for it. So, Mike, if you got nothing else, good.
Yeah, no, let's go green.
All right. Once again, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.